Welcome back. So here's a lovely little working bookcase ladder. So you'll need some balsa wood, a couple of small toothpicks, or just sand them down to where they're a little bit smaller. These are the rungs. These will become the rungs. Then there's this, it's a large gauge. Maybe you can get a smaller gauge, but in the description, I'm going to put a link to this. This is actually just floral wire, but the coating on this is like a vinyl or something. And so it doesn't have the paper, like the texture like what we used for the little wrought iron chairs. It's very smooth. Okay, so you could use regular floral wire for this and then maybe paint it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I found this, and it's a brown that kind of goes all right with this. It looks like it goes horribly, but it's actually not that bad. So this, you'll need either jump rings, which you would know what that is if you do some jewelry, or just some wire that this really won't show. You're going to put this on the back so that it will slide back and forth. Whatever paint, remember I'm doing a whole series, and so all of mine is going to be, or probably all of it will be in burnt sienna. You'll need your cutting, sanding tools, measuring tools, and so forth. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to cut your balsa wood into 2 strips, okay? 2 strips. That's all you'll need for the sides, obviously. And they need to be 10 centimeters. I guess we could turn it this way and say tall. And it doesn't really matter if you go with the grain or against the grain. It's easier to cut with the grain. Now, they're going to be about 2 millimeters wide. Now, here's the thing. When you go to sand it, if you can evenly sand it to where it's actually, you know, a little smaller, not quite 2 millimeters, that's great, because really the finest you can do is the better, just to keep the, you know, the scale a little bit more accurate. It doesn't matter if it is 2 millimeters, if you're able to cut that small, it's still going to look fine and look a lot like the real ladders that I've seen online. So you'll go ahead and do that and sand. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your toothpicks and you're going to cut 6 rungs. These are the rungs. You're going to cut 6 at 1 centimeter wide. Okay. So 6 at 1 centimeter wide. All righty. Now you have all of that good to go, all cut. So what you're going to do is take these, and if like mine, you know, this isn't exactly maybe 2 millimeters, your widest one, put that to the side. So all you're doing is turning this to where the edge of the balsa wood, in other words, the thinnest, the narrowest sides are up. Okay, so I don't know if that's obvious, but there's a little bit of a difference. When I went to cut this is a little wider than that, and that's all I'm saying is cut is to prop them up this way. Okay, now this is something where you might want a piece of tape or something to hold it down, and that's the reason for that is you really want to make sure that your top and your bottom are in alignment before we go to measure, okay, for these rungs. So I'm just going to hold mine down here because I think my tape's upstairs. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark about 1.3, okay? And this, as you mark these, I mark straight across like that. And you're just going to go all the way up 6 times. Now, when you do that, there's going to be extra space between the top rung and the top of what will, the top of the ladder. But that's because in real life, you don't need to have rungs all the way to the top, because if you stood on that, you would hit your head. So many of these ladders in real life, they have this extra space up here. It's not a lot of extra space, but there is some. Okay. So we're going to do that. We're going to mark those. And then once those are marked all the way across, just go ahead and take your rungs and go ahead and glue them. Now, I put glue on either side of my rungs and went ahead and glued like this and went on up, because I found like I could still adjust these, but you could certainly just do one side if you wanted to, and then do the other side, right away. That's up to you. It's no big deal either way. So let's go ahead and glue that together. When your glue is dry, it's time to go ahead and paint this. So go ahead and paint it, let that dry, and then we will do the wire. Now we're ready for the wire. And so it doesn't matter really what color wire you have, because it's not going to show, or you can always paint it. But in order to make sure that this is going to slide, then you want to go ahead and use your wire, your floral wire, and wrap that around, and then make it a little bit bigger. It can't be tight. So you test that and see that that goes back and forth. Okay, so you're going to cut 2 of those, and all you have to do is glue them. This is my wrong side, okay? And just glue them so that you will be able to slide that. So it'll go like this. And I think my glue is dried up on me, so I don't know if I can show you. However, boy, that's a mess. Bring that down a bit, and then just bring this down. If I can get this to stick, just bring this down. You don't, okay, I'll just hold it. So you don't want it to actually show. You want it to be hidden by the ladder itself, okay? So that's your next step. Now that this is ready to go, what you're going to do, and you can touch up the ends if you want to, is just go ahead and look at the width, and it's best to not, it's best to not give you an exact measurement, because, maybe your bookcase turned out wider, or maybe your bookcase that you purchased or put together before is wider. But basically all you're doing is you're going to mark this, cut the width, and then let me go ahead and cut that, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Now that I have this cut, what I want to do is thread my ladder onto the wire. And then what I can do is just glue this to my sides, okay? Now, if you're doing more than one bookcase the way that I am, okay, this one's not quite glued yet. Okay, the shelves aren't. If you're doing more than one bookcase, then you don't want to cut small pieces. You want to cut for the entire length. And then on the very ends, you may want to lift that up by putting like a little seed bead underneath, so that this is lifted up slightly. That way you can slide it all the way across without having to stop at the middle, or without having to make, different ladders. You can have the same ladder and it'll scooch all the way across. So for this one, just to show you, I cut that for you. So what would happen if I went ahead and glued this down, but like I said, I don't wanna, is this would then slide back and forth. And so you have this and this would work. Now, real quick, I want to give you a word about, I don't know if you can even see that, but it'll go right back and forth, just like a real one. It kills me. But at any rate, a word about books. So I went ahead and made some books for this one, and I'm going to be making a bunch of books for this. What you do is you're just going to cut a strip of your balsa wood. If you're going to cut it on something else, it doesn't matter then if it was, basswood, or it can be just matte, or thick, like a medium thickness cardboard, whatever the case may be. In the case of this, I could even use this and I could cut the little pieces. So you'll make them approximately square, but like I said, the important measurement is your 1, okay? So the size of this is 1 centimeter. So what'll happen is if you did 1.2 part on this, then of course the 1 is going to fit. And like I said, this isn't all completely glued, but the 1 is going to fit just fine. 1 centimeter will fit just fine. Okay, so what about the covers? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide the covers because, if you wish to use my books that I did, really all you're doing is you just glue it around this and then arrange it the way that you want. Now I have some different sizes and some that I made by folding the paper, but the easiest way to get them identical is really to just use a piece of wood. You can fold paper and back and forth accordion wise and tuck that in there, and then you can have, as you might be able to see, I have a book that I did like that. But I'll put instructions on the link to these book covers for you. And then you can always change the covers. You just go online and you just find an image of your favorite book and you'll just size it down to what I give you in that document or Google Drawing, I think it is. Okay, so there's your cute little ladder to go on your bookcase, and I will continue with this series for the Mission Library. And thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe.